This is Bean to Barstool, a podcast that looks at the intersections of craft chocolate, craft beer, and other artisan drinks. My name is David Nilsson. I'm a professional drinks writer, an advanced cicerone, the author of Pairing Beer and Chocolate, and the creator and host of this show. The music for this episode is by my dear friend, indie folk musician Anna P.S. You can find out more about Anna's music in the show notes or on annapsmusic.com. You can find links and information about our guests in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoy this episode of Bean to Barstool. Hey everyone, welcome to Bean to Barstool. Back in the very first episode of the year, I went through a list of things that I think craft chocolate can learn from the craft beer industry. Some of those were things craft beer has done well. Some of them were things it hasn't done well that I think we can learn from their mistakes. One of the things that I talked about in there was collaboration. Collaboration is something that I see a ton of in craft beer, but it exists in very narrow lanes in craft chocolate. Collaboration exists, but there's very specific situations for it. And I think that there are a lot more opportunities for collaboration in craft chocolate, and I would like to see more of it. I'm going to be starting a 4-part series of bonus episodes looking at collaboration opportunities for craft chocolate makers. Throughout the series, I would love your feedback, any ideas that you get from this, maybe I haven't thought of, examples of collaboration you're seeing in the craft chocolate industry. Basically, any kind of feedback that you have, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. That's always true for any episodes, but would love to hear that especially for this bonus series on collaboration. Today, we're going to talk about the general benefits for any kind of collaboration. Why should craft chocolate makers be looking at collaborating with other businesses at all? As well as some things to keep in mind before embarking on collaborations, some considerations when you're looking at doing one of these. In part 2, we will talk about collaborating with beverage alcohol producers. That's kind of key to Bean to Barstool. That's a main theme that we look at repeatedly, collaborations between these industries, but we'll zero in on what the benefits of those can be for craft chocolate makers specifically in part 2. Part 3, this is kind of a weak area, I think, for craft chocolate. We're going to talk about collaborations with other makers. This is something that is just core to the identity of craft beer, collaborations between breweries, and it's not something we see a lot of on the maker side. So we're going to talk about that. And then part 4, the last episode, we will talk about creative collaborations that are maybe a little outside the box, collaboration opportunities you might not think about, but can really do some unique things for a chocolate maker. So first off, let's talk about the benefits of collaboration. Before we're looking at any kind of specifics or types of collaborations, why should you even be thinking about this? What are some of the things this can do for your craft chocolate company? Some of these are taken from a talk that I gave at the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival a couple months back titled From Bean to Barstool and Back. That was specifically focused on collaboration with beverage alcohol producers, but these benefits really would apply to any kind of collaboration you're looking at. I'm going to break these benefits into 2 parts, and I'm going to call these financial benefits and cultural benefits. And by cultural, I'm looking at company culture, things that this can do for your business that maybe aren't affecting the bottom line, but can really change a lot in terms of the kind of holistic health of your company. So let's look at the financial benefits first. The first big financial benefit, and this is one of the major and easy to identify benefits, is that collaborating with another company can expand your customer base, expand your reach to a new group of potential customers, to a new audience. With trying to gain new customers and get more brand awareness by doing social media or by doing standalone events in your cafe or whatever it might be, you're scrapping for every single customer. And when you can partner with another company, you automatically gain access to their entire customer base. Now, not only does that mean the product or products that come out of the specific collaboration have a wider audience, but now the collab partners' customers know your name. They know you're worth knowing about because the company that they already likes and respects you enough to work with you. That can be a huge benefit. That expanded reach can be realized through special events, through social media reach, through packaging visibility, through direct to consumer channels like newsletters and things like that. But either way, you are gaining an audience just by partnering with another business without you having to scrap and claw for the eyes of every single one of those customers individually, like you might have otherwise. That expanded reach can be as simple as the fans of another chocolate maker who maybe just aren't aware of your brand, but looking beyond chocolate, looking again at other possible segments, whether it's beverage alcohol or some of these other creative ones that we're going to talk about. This can be fans that maybe don't have any real awareness of craft chocolate, and you wouldn't even have an avenue to get in front of. You can be the representative basically of craft chocolate to fans of craft beer or spirits or coffee or spice purveyor or whatever it might be. You are not only introducing yourself, you're introducing the idea of better chocolate. The reason any of us get into any kind of craft segment, whether it's chocolate or beverage alcohol or coffee, is sometimes more circumstantial and random than we'd like to believe. Like once we are diehard fans of one of these segments, it feels like we were always going to be part of this. But honestly, the more time that I spend working across multiple segments, the more I realize that we're all basically doing the same things and having the same kind of conversations. It's the details that are different. And so it could have been, a slightly different influence, and maybe I'm a wine guy, or maybe I'm a coffee person. And, I like wine and coffee, but those are not my biggest areas of interest or my areas of professional focus. And it's just kind of, I don't want to say luck, but we end up fans of the things we're fans of by less intention than we maybe sometimes want to believe. And the reason I explain all that is that a fan of craft beer or spirits or coffee or tea, they might be very, very prepared to be fans of craft chocolate, but don't even know it yet. They're fans of flavor, and they're fans of process, and they're fans of, maybe they understand the agriculture behind these things. And so they have done a deep dive into their specific area of interest. But if they can get exposed to craft chocolate and hear an interesting story, and through a collaboration see the tie between craft chocolate and this thing that they're already a fan of, they might be very, very primed to now be new customers of yours and new fans of craft chocolate. That is really, really important, and something I don't think that we talk about enough when we're looking at collaboration, is an opportunity to not only sell a unique product, but bring new people into the thing that we're interested in. Beyond fans of other segments, there's also a potentially a access to fans from a different geographical area. Now, obviously, this depends on the nature of the collaboration. If you're collaborating with somebody down the street, this probably doesn't apply. But if you're partnering with somebody across the country or in another country, even if their fans are, already existing fans of craft chocolate and so should be fans of yours, they might just not know about you, especially if you're a smaller maker. And so just having your name on this collaboration product, or seeing a video of you pop up on the social media feed for their favorite, whatever it might be, brewery or craft chocolate maker, that can now, make them potential customers of yours. And the great thing about chocolate, different from beverage alcohol or from a lot of liquid-based products, is that you can ship anywhere. Pretty much every craft chocolate maker sells direct to consumer through their websites. And so that geographical barrier is not a problem from a standpoint of them being your customer. They just need to know about you and have a reason to care. So that can give you access to a customer base that might be like a easy overlap with your customer base. They're just in a different area and don't have as much awareness of you. There is another consideration here, and this is something that I want to be careful with talking about because it can sound like I'm saying something prescriptive that I am not saying. But for better or worse, and I would argue strongly that it is for worse, but there are still a lot of gendered stereotypes around a lot of different artisan food and beverage segments. Chocolate still has a very feminine image. Now, obviously, chocolate and all these other segments, they don't have genders. There is no reason that only men like this or only women like this when it comes to food and beverage. But like it or not, culturally, there are these kind of stereotypes and images built up. And collaborations across segments, I think, can be a valuable way to break down some of those barriers. And for example, with craft chocolate partnering with breweries, which is something that I focus on all the time, it's a major theme of Bean to Barstool. Craft beer has a somewhat masculine image, and that is starting to change. And there are and always have been women playing vital roles in craft beer, but there can still be kind of this boys club around that. And I think it's probably safe to assume that you're not getting a ton of like the IPA bros from the brewery just randomly wandering into your chocolate shop. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that's probably the case. But if you're doing an event in the brewery and your cacao nibs are in a, chocolate stout at their favorite brewery, or you're releasing a bar that is made with Citra hops or something from their favorite IPA, well, now suddenly they have a reason to care and can potentially become customers of yours. Maybe that's a one-time thing. Maybe that's an ongoing thing as those barriers get broken down and they realize that, yeah, IPA bros can like chocolate too. Like again, those stereotypes shouldn't exist. These things don't have gendered qualities to them, but those stereotypes and images do still exist in society, and collaboration can be one way that we can potentially break some of those down, and you can gain access to customers that might not otherwise have considered your products to be for them. The final financial consideration to keep in mind with this is that for chocolate makers specifically, collaborating with a different segment, and I'm looking specifically at beverage alcohol, but this can be true for coffee as well and some others. This can generate an ongoing revenue opportunity to be an ingredient provider for them for products going forward. So let's say you work with a brewery to make a one-off chocolate beer using your cacao nibs, and it's got your name on the label and it's like this mutual collaboration. But going forward, they're probably going to use cacao nibs in a lot of different beers. And if you can do this one standalone collab with them and then say, hey, where are you getting your cacao nibs from the rest of the time? I can roast these for you same day or the day before you need them, and they'll be super fresh. You can come right down to the factory and sample nibs, and we can pick out origins, and that can now be an ongoing revenue stream. There are a lot of craft chocolate makers for whom selling to breweries, even if these aren't actually branded collaborations, you're just being an ingredient provider, that is a significant part of their income. That may not be a major viable option for every single situation, but it is definitely something to look at. If you've got a brewery who can buy in bulk from you on, a semi-regular basis, that's a potentially nice little chunk of change without you really having to do a whole lot to garner that. So let's talk now about those cultural benefits that I mentioned. And again, I'm using cultural to refer to the company culture. So what can this do for the holistic health of your business beyond just dollars and cents? One of the biggest things that you can gain from collaboration, and this is true working with other chocolate makers, it's true working in a totally different segment outside of chocolate, is knowledge sharing and education. On the brewing side, I mentioned collaborations are just a huge part of craft beer. There is such an opportunity when brewers get together to learn from each other and to say, oh, you do it that way, I do it this way. And you can kind of see the pros and cons of different methods, little tips and tricks that get picked up along the way. When you work at a brewery or you work at a chocolate factory, day in, day out, you are working on your own equipment. You're working with your own employees. If you have employees, you have systems in place. You have figured out through trial and error, and that is great. But that can become very, very siloed to where you just kind of shave off other possible techniques for doing things, or you aren't even aware of how other people solve a particular problem that you've solved this other way. Getting together with people, getting together with another chocolate maker, for example, is an amazing opportunity. I think this is especially true in craft chocolate because so many craft chocolate makers are extremely small businesses. You might be your only employee, or you have one employee. This is not even like a large team potentially. It is an amazing opportunity to get an infusion of information and share knowledge and kind of raise the institutional knowledge of craft chocolate rather than everybody just kind of needing to do their own thing. And when you're partnering with a collaboration partner that is not in craft chocolate from a totally different segment, even though that may not directly impact how you make chocolate, you can still gain a lot of knowledge about how flavors work together, how flavor concepts are built for different products, how different ingredients can be used, just all sorts of different things. This is such an amazing opportunity to just learn in a hands-on way with colleagues who, probably equally want to learn from you. Along those same lines, there is a big benefit of just the creative infusion and exchange that comes from collaboration. Obviously I'm not a chocolate maker. I'm not a brewer. I'm not involved in directly producing any of these products. I am a writer. I spend most of my time sitting at my desk alone on my computer doing my work, and I enjoy doing that. But this job takes a lot of work, and sometimes it can be draining, and the world is on fire, and that can be draining. And there's often bad news from the industries that I'm covering. Craft beer has been struggling the last couple of years, and a lot of breweries are closing, and chocolate companies are closing. Like, this can all be a drain. And there are definitely days where I'm just like, oh my God, why am I doing this? And what I find to be almost just across the board, the most encouraging thing that just reinfuses energy and excitement and curiosity is just being around other people in these industries. So the industry events, when I travel on site to cover a story, when I'm going to a competition to help with judging, when I've got a festival, when I'm going to be speaking, those things that come up maybe every few weeks, every few months, depending on what they are, I always come away from those, even if there isn't some specific thing that I've gained, I always come away from those with renewed energy and a renewed curiosity. And that is easy to overlook and easy to undervalue because it doesn't have a dollar value on it. But we are not machines. We are holistic beings. Emotion is a part of that. Mental health is a part of that. Fatigue can play into that. And being around other creative people and remembering why we love this and why we're excited about it can have so much value. And being around other chocolate makers, and remembering why you love doing this, being around people from a totally different artisan segment and seeing their excitement and how they interact with flavor and ingredients. And even though it's totally different, you're seeing the overlap there. Like, that can have so much value. Along those same lines, this can be a really great employee perk, a really great way to build buy-in from your employees. Now, again, you might be your only employee. You are the company. But if you have 1 or 2 employees or 6 employees or 20 employees, a lot of them probably are not career craft chocolate people, or at least didn't come into this because they wanted this to be a career. They got a job with you. They were looking for a job. You had a job opening. It was a fit. And they like their job, but maybe craft chocolate is not the passion for them that it is for you. Take them along with you on a collab day. If you're going over to the distillery across town because they're going to make a rum with your cacao nibs, and then you're going to take those nibs back and make a bar from it, Take them along with you. Yeah, it's one day of pay you're going to have to give them where they're not in the factory making chocolate, but the value that comes away from them getting to do that and the buy-in and the enthusiasm that that can garner can be game changing for them. They could very literally become career craft chocolate people because of that. Think about being in your early 20s and this is just a job that you took and
We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, I've got a couple big, exciting Final Gravity zine announcements for you. First off, we finally have a website set up for Final Gravity, finalgravityzine.com. You can go there to learn more about the zine, find our writing guidelines, our advertising guidelines, anything else you're looking for, finalgravityzine.com. And on that note, Final Gravity issue 11 is now available for immediate shipping in the Bean to Barstool shop. BeanToBarstool.com is still where you'll order all the zines, but you can get links to those from FinalGravityZine.com. This new issue is packed with great stories. We've got breweries in Ukraine and Sarajevo that we're profiling, some personal essays. It's a beautiful issue. I'm really excited about it. So check that out on BeanToBarstool.com. Go to the shop and you can order that issue or subscribe to the zine, or you can support us on Patreon. Get all those links on FinalGravityZine.com. Thanks for supporting us. Cheers. Yeah, you enjoy it, but now you're telling your friends that you got to go to this distillery and be involved in like making this rum, and now they can come and taste this chocolate bar. Like you can't replace that kind of excitement and buy-in. So definitely think about this as an employee perk, as a way to show your employees that you're not the only person doing these things. Along with that, there is a huge storytelling opportunity that comes along with doing collaborations, whether it's with another maker or somebody totally outside of craft chocolate. You are, as we talked about earlier, scrapping for every customer. And on social media, that means day in, day out, trying to make the same thing look different and interesting. 3 weeks ago, you were breathlessly telling everyone about this amazing new single origin of beans that you got in. And now today, you're breathlessly telling everyone about a different single origin that you got in. And 3 weeks from now, you'll be doing that again. And it might all be true. You're excited about all of them, and they're all delicious. But that can be very, very same, very, very monotonous. And it's very hard to figure out new ways to say the same things and sell the same products. But when you're working with somebody else, with a different company that is doing something different from what you're doing, suddenly you genuinely, legitimately have something different to tell your customers about. And there is a new story to tell, completely different ingredients that you haven't worked with before, a new setting for your photos and your videos of like, look where we got to go. You can put yourself, when you're doing a collaboration, and we'll talk about this more in just a little bit, you need to be getting everything out of that you can, which means getting content and photography and video and all that kind of stuff. You're basically taking a field trip, and you can bring your customers along with you. You can put yourself in the place of the customer and say, check out this amazing place we got to go. We're going to get to do this and this today, and go in there. And you're actually getting to show them new content, and just instead of just trying to convince them that this is new content. That is really, really valuable from a storytelling standpoint. And then finally, and I know this is cheesy, but it shouldn't be overlooked, there is value in the goodwill that this garners with your colleagues and the friendships that get built this way. And in some ways, this goes back to that creative infusion I was talking about. But especially in craft chocolate can operate on a much smaller scale than craft beer, not just as an industry, but the individual business. You can't have a brewery that is as small as our smallest chocolate making companies are. It can be very easy to just be doing this completely alone and get very, very siloed. And the friendship and the goodwill that comes along with doing these partnerships can be very, very valuable. You never know when you're going to need help, when they're going to need help, and being able to build those friendships and not be so isolated can really go a long way. All right, so if I've convinced you, hopefully, that collaborations are an awesome idea, let's talk about some considerations to keep in mind before you begin a collaboration partnership. First thing, and this is truly the first thing sequentially that you need to think about, is making sure that your values align with your collaboration partner. And I think this is especially true when you're looking outside the craft chocolate industry and maybe have less familiarity with that potential partner. You need to make sure that when your names are together on a product or on a social media post, that there's not going to come a point where you regret that, where you don't love seeing those names side by side. I know it sucks that this is true, but I personally, I'm just going to be completely honest. Before I'm writing an article about a company, if I don't already have intimate familiarity with them, I always Google the founders' names with the word allegations. Sorry, but I do, because I don't want to end up having supported something and given it a platform and then find out that, yeah, all their employees have some things to say, and like that's important to find out. Like, it does not hurt, especially if you're partnering with a collaboration partner from a different geographical area. Maybe you're not around that company's people enough to hear everything. Like, it doesn't hurt to ask someone in that area, do they have a good reputation? Is there anything I should be aware of? Back in that episode at the beginning of the year, I talked about the fact that just because somebody shares our interest doesn't mean they share our principles. Just because they have good taste doesn't mean they have good intentions. Just do a little due diligence to make sure that your values align and that you're going to be proud of this having been a partnership that your name is going to be on right beside theirs. Once you have decided that a collaboration is a good idea, then you and your collaboration partner need to do some advanced planning. Do not make this something that you're just going to wing. Don't just be like, oh, we'll get together and we'll figure something out. That is a recipe for disappointment and frustration. You need to do advanced planning. First of all, you need to make sure that responsibilities for this collaboration are clearly outlined in advance. Who is ordering ingredients? What is the product going to be that you're going to make? Who is creating and designing the labels? Who is hosting the collaboration? Is it going to happen at your place or at theirs? That might depend on what the product is, but if it's, if you're collaborating with a different chocolate maker, that could happen at either place. Who is hosting a release event? Who is planning that? Who is shouldering some of those costs? All of those things are things you need to have clearly spelled out, written out in advance, so that there is no ambiguity about whose job these different things are. So first of all, that's to make sure that it runs smoothly so that everything gets done and you get the most out of this, but also it's so that there's no frustration and resentment down the line when somebody ends up having to give a heavy sigh and be like, okay, I'll take care of that because it was just assumed that the other person was going to do it. Just make sure everything is planned out. It does not remove any of the fun and spontaneity of the day itself. It releases you to make the actual collaboration process fun and more relaxed when you have all of that planned in advance. Make sure, and this is going to depend a little bit, there's a little bit of wiggle room on this depending on what the nature of the collaboration is, but make sure that there is an equal workload and an equal commitment to this collaboration. We all remember group projects in school where one person ended up doing 80% of the work and the other person got equal credit just because they were in the group. Like, make sure that both of you are fully invested and bought in on this collaboration, and that there is may not literally be equal work depending on what the nature of the collab is, but that there is a logical balance to the workload relative to what the project actually is. Finally, you want to make sure that you are maximizing the benefits of your collaboration, because this is going to require a little bit of time, a little bit of inconvenience, might incur a little bit additional cost. Hopefully that should all be more than offset by the value of the collab. But with those things in mind, you need to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. You need to wring every potential benefit out of the collaboration that you can. So if a release event or one or more events are feasible, roll those in with this, celebrate the collaboration. Make sure that the labels are what they can be, that both collaboration partners are represented on those. Figure out your storytelling opportunities in advance in case any of those are going to require some advanced planning. If you want to do full videography of the collaboration, that's going to need to be arranged and not just like kind of improvised on the day of on your phones. Make sure that you have your social media plan in place for this. If you're going to go to the trouble of doing a collab, you need to make sure that you get all the benefits that we talked about earlier out of it. So maximize those benefits, do some advanced planning, figure out how you're going to get full marks on each of those different potential benefits from it. There are more collaborations than you would think out there. You're already doing some of these. If you're working with any, other ingredient provider outside of craft chocolate, if you make a coffee bar and you work with you get coffee from the local coffee shop, that's already a potential collaboration. Maybe you're not treating it as one. Maybe you're just grabbing their coffee and putting it in the bar. Maybe look at reevaluating some of those relationships just to make them more visible collaborations. You don't even have to necessarily change anything about your process, but make it something that maximizes benefit for both parties. And as we're going to talk about as we get into these further into these bonus episodes, there are a lot of potential opportunities for collaboration you might not be realizing. In the next bonus episode in the series, we're going to look at partnering with beverage alcohol producers. That is obviously an area of great passion and curiosity for me, so we'll do a deep dive on that. And then episode 3, we will talk about collabing with other chocolate makers. Episode 4 will be creative collaborations, thinking outside the box. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. Let me know if there are benefits or considerations I have not thought of, and I will roll those into the next episode if I get them in time. Thank you all so much for listening to Bean to Barstool. Your support means so much to me. Hope you enjoyed this episode and enjoy the rest of this series. Cheers.